Learn something new every day. And we got, Steve said, we got Florida in Gainesville Saturday. Jim McElwain and his staff have done a fantastic job since they've been there. Offensively, unfortunately, Luke Del Rio was injured Saturday, and you hate to see that in any young man, injury, and wish him well. But there'll be a change at quarterback, obviously, but I don't see a schematic change. Jim's been very successful, wherever he's been offensively with what they do, and he'll tailor, obviously, offensively to some things that they can do to help whoever the quarterback is or multiple guys or however they're going to structure that. Massive in the offensive line, 300-plus across the board. David and Juwan are both 350-plus and are very good athletes, move their feet extremely well. Talented at the receiver position, Callaway and BP and C.J. Wharton and Tyree Cleveland and Ahmad Fullwood and Josh Hammond are all guys that can win in the one-on-one setting and those sort of things. And, the tight ends, Ciante and DeAndre, both guys that they use very well in what Jim does offensively, and they have 4 really good running backs that all are physical guys that got top-end speed. Scarlett and Piron and Thompson and Cronkite are all guys that can hurt you. So, we need our work cut out for us defensively. We got to continue to improve, especially in some of the two-back running game, and that's a huge emphasis for us this week. Defensively, they're talented at all 3 levels. You watch the Missouri game; it's a 6-0 game with 3:54 in the second quarter, and all of a sudden it's 20-0, 2 pick sixes. And Quincy Wilson and Jalen Tabor are 2 very talented guys that have played a lot of football, and they're very good players. They're not going to see anything new Saturday. I can assure you of that. They've seen a lot, and they're good players. Duke Dawson's playing very well for them at the nickel. He's also played corner, played safety, had a pick 6 Saturday at Arkansas, but he's a guy that can cover and support the run, and he's a good blitzer, and he's a good football player. And Marcus May's probably playing his best football at Florida, in my opinion, just watching the tape from this year. He's been a sure tackler in space, and but he's played a lot of football for him. And Nick Washington and Marcel Harris are having really good years. Disappointed for Jared Davis and Alex Anzalone, not playing Saturday, and I know Alex, I think, had surgery, but hurt for them. 2 really good players, but better people, and the kind of guys that represent college athletics the right way. And I know Daniel McMillian's done some nice things. I'm really proud of him. We recruited Daniel and happy for him. And they got some young linebackers that are very athletic and play very well. So they'll certainly step up for them. And up front, Caleb Brantley's a very disruptive player, a guy you got to account for in the run and pass game, and you got to make sure you one-on-ones that you can handle, because he's an explosive guy and playing at a very high level. Taven Bryan's continued to develop as a really good football player, and C.C. Jefferson, Kerry Clark, they got some depth up front. I know they've had some injuries, but they've got some depth. Joey Ivy, Brian Cox has got a broken thumb, I believe, but plays it hard, plays fast, plays physical. 92 and 95 are younger guys that have come along, but 92's got a lot of twitch that we've got to handle in the rush. But the very talented up front, the front you're going to have to deal with throughout the game. And the place kicker's outstanding, and Johnny Townsend's an outstanding punter. Good skill people in the return game that certainly can threaten you at any snap. So we've got to make sure our coverage units, which we did a much better job Saturday of covering kicks. I also want to say I'm really excited about the State Physical Accountability Authority that gave its approval for our football operations facility. That's a huge step for our program moving forward. It's a game changer for us, in my opinion, for our student athletes on campus, and also it's going to help us tremendously in recruiting. But I want to thank President Pastides, the Board of Trustees, and Coach Tanner, and all of those involved at the state level that approved this. And I really appreciate that moving forward. It's an exciting time in Gamecock football. I'm excited about where we are, but really excited about where we're heading, and that's going to be a huge, huge part of our success moving forward. And I'll open it up for any questions.
Raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you, David.
Will, you mentioned that you probably won't see any schematic change with Appleby under center, but as a defensive game plan, how hard does it make it trying to plan for him or maybe Franks or the other guy?
There's only so much you can do in a week, and really, and at the end of the day, you've got to do some things that quarterback feels comfortable with, but there's 10 other guys on the field that you got to account for too. So, Jim's been coaching offensive football for a long time, and they'll have a good plan in place for us. We're going to have to make some adjustments on Saturday. I think that's the biggest thing, David. You got to plan for some adjustments. You're going to have to plan. You're going to have to make some adjustments in game.
John,
Well, having not played on the road in a while, do you dress the team at all, or just same preparation week to week?
No, I don't. Same preparation. Obviously our guys early in the year we got used to being on the road a bunch. So, nothing different for us.
Keep on moving back, Mike.
What's this game going to be like for you? Your first head coaching gig at Florida. Obviously, your kids, grew up in Gainesville. Coming back to the Swamp, where you coached for 4 years, what are the emotions that you're going to feel?
I don't know. I won't know till game day. I stayed at the office normally how I stayed at the office last night. I got in the office about the same time I normally get to the office. I mean, nothing changes as far as the work week is concerned, whether we're playing Florida or anybody else on our schedule for that matter. So, we'll cross that bridge when we get to Gainesville.
Josh.
Does the ability of their coverage guys mean you have to say something to Jake about those 50-50 balls? Does he have to do that differently, or do you just not mention that and he's got to go with his?
I think just about making good decisions in coverage areas. It's no different. When those tight zones are going to be tighter. Those guys, and these guys make plays on the ball, and they're ball hawks, and they go after the ball, and our receivers got to go challenge them for the football, and they're going to play bump and run. They're not going to shock us with anything. That's what they do, and they do well. Fastball pitchers throw fastballs. They're going to throw fastballs Saturday.
Moving back, TV.
Well, I know you said nothing really changes with the week, despite playing a school that obviously you were at for a while. But a lot with those seniors, it's gonna be senior day there. You had a chance to recruit some of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know their strengths and weaknesses. Does it change at all? Does it give you an advantage a little bit knowing what they do?
I don't know
Those
that.
guys?
I wouldn't necessarily knowing what they do. I think more than anything, when you are familiar with a player that you've coached before, certainly, unfortunately, I know some of them are really good. So, you realize some strengths and weaknesses they may have within their game. But at the end of the day, this is a player's game, and when this thing tees off at noon on Saturday, it's going to come down to the players, and the players making plays in those situations, and coaches putting them in good situations to afford them to make some plays.
Brian.
Coach, DJ Smith was mentioning that he felt like T-Rob was one of them, just in an older body. How much has that been able to help them grow as a secondary this year, just that unique
Well,
bond?
thank goodness T-Rob's not playing for us. How about that? I can't. You ought to see him move on the practice field. It's embarrassing. He does a fantastic job of, I think that some people have and it's a skill, to motivate players, to also develop a respect and friendship with players, but there's always that line of being the coach and the player. And he has as good an ability of probably anybody I've worked with that can do that and can manage that line and manage the players still understanding when it's time to lock in and be serious, when it's time to enjoy a meeting setting or on the field setting or a laugh or two, because at the end of the day, we spend a lot of time together as far as with our players. And you got to be able to enjoy that time, and he does a fantastic job, in my opinion, of that. And that's why he has such a close relationship with his players, because the players see him making a difference for them as players, as people, but he's also able to do it in a father-like, brother-like way, and that's hard to do. It's hard to have that personality to handle those situations.
Moving back, Rick.
Well, when you were hired here, you talked about learning from your experiences at Florida as a first-time head coach. Now, as you get ready to go back again for the first time as a head coach again, how are you a better coach?
Well, I mean, I think anytime you have gone through a situation, I would equate it to being a freshman player. That first year it's moving really fast, and you're kind of learning on the run a little bit on some situations. And the second year it slows down a little bit, and the third year it slows down a little bit. And now in my fifth year, the anticipation of when things happen and all of those things, you're able to dissect, maybe have a little better anticipation of situations that occur within your team, within your staff, within recruiting, or whatever the case may be. So again, the more experience and the more at-bats you have at something, the better you're going to be. If you're willing to learn from your experiences, which I'm certainly willing to do so. And so that would be, we did some good things at Florida too. So let's don't lose sight of that.
Swing over to the left, Keith.
Well, obviously, your guys here know your history in Florida. Is that something you're concerned about? These guys maybe losing focus because they're trying to do too much because they want to bring
No,
something
our
new?
guys would be. It's about focusing in on the game, what they need to do. It's always about the players to me. It's always going to be, and that'll never change. It's about the players and them focusing in on their job. And we had a good meeting this morning and talked about some things we have on the table. And in order for all of those things to fall our way, it all goes back to our preparation and how we prepare this week on a Tuesday practice, on a Wednesday practice, on a Thursday, on a Friday walkthrough, handling the trip the right way, and playing well in the game.
Well, I'm sure this week you'll start hearing about the 2014 USC-Florida game. As a coach, is it easy to ignore that? Can you ignore that with social media being the way it is these days?
I don't know. I don't look on social media very much, but that's one of the things I've learned. So, not read y'all's stuff and don't social media. No, but it's hey, it is what it is. It's Bryson Allen Williams brought it up this morning. So no, he's great. He's good, man. He's great. No, that's just it's part of the game. It's part of what happened. We didn't do a very good job at the end of the game, and that's my responsibility.
Back there in the mic.
Coach, when I was walking in, heard a couple players talking some politics. Is that something do you encourage them to vote, and do you encourage political discussions around this time?
I know. I'm worried about Florida right now. No, they need to vote. I'm all for it.
Well, what was your relationship with Coach Spurrier like when you were at Florida, and do you two communicate at
yeah.
all now that he's there and you're here?
Relationship was outstanding. He was very helpful to me in my time at Florida. He was always called to check in, see how things were going. Came through Gainesville when he went to Crescent several times. I mean, it's just really very supportive of me, and I always appreciated that because he didn't have to do that, and he did. And I haven't. He called after we beat Tennessee. He was happy, and but that's he's been great to me.
Which player on the team is most likely to become president? On your
Wow. You know what? The good thing is we've got several candidates, I would say. Perry Orth would be a guy, to me, that would be politically correct. We've got a couple that aren't politically correct. So, but we've got several guys that are extremely, bright, and certainly if they wanted to head down the road of politics, they certainly would be good. Mason Zandy's a guy that, T.J. Holloman. T.J. Holloman's, a guy that I'd say I'm probably going to leave some guys out, and they'll be mad at me. But those three would jump out at me right there as far as guys that, if that's the world they wanted to live in, that would probably be good.
Last week, what kind of a challenge was it for Steven Montag to kind of go through the week preparing to play safety and then all of a sudden have to switch back to nickel mid-game?
No, it's hard. I mean, that's it's all about matchups. And Steven, and Jordan Diggs and Anton Wilder have done a really good job for us playing the nickel. But there were some matchup concerns for us going into the game, and Steven knew going in the game there was a possibility he would have to play some nickel in the game, and he did a fantastic job, really did. I mean, but our guys all kind of know that we teach everything by concept, so they all kind of know they have to be adaptable to situations when things happen, especially when you're very thin, that they've got to learn multiple positions. But, we try and cross-train guys in spring, which Steven wasn't here for spring, but also in fall camp, and we do that for the reason to create depth for your team. So when you get into week 8, 9, 10, and you have an injury or you have a targeting or whatever you have, that you're able to move a guy to another position and he can rep it for a couple, get him 15, 18 reps on a Tuesday practice, and you feel comfortable and he feels comfortable about going in the game and playing. And so that's why we do that, and he's done that for our entire season, but he did it a lot in fall camp because we knew he's extremely bright, really smart. He's got good coverage skills in man and zone, so he can play multiple spots for you. Yeah.
Jake's pull block against Missouri that put the safety down has gotten a little bit of play on social media. When a player is that young and he's that powerful, does it take him a while to learn exactly how powerful he is and how to use it?
Well, I think that
Zach Bailey.
Until you've sat in the chair of being a quarterback or the head coach, or you don't really know, and there's no book for it to tell you what's going to happen. So
I meant Zach Bailey. I apologize.
Zach Bailey.
I said the wrong name.
All right. So what did he do?
No, the pull block against Missouri that put the defender down. The guys we're talking about. And when the player's that young and that powerful, does it take him a while to learn exactly how powerful he is and how to harness it the right way?
No, but it's a great question. It was a heck of a block. It looked like to me. So, and we blocked on the perimeter. That was nice. So, again, I think that blocking in space is extremely difficult, and to be able to climb on the second level shows, number one, he's a really good athlete. Number two, he is a powerful man, and but Zach's had a very consistent year for us this year. He's played really good football for us, and consistently week in, week out. You always want to know what you're getting with a player, so it's been good.
Rico in the running game had a lot of success against Tennessee and Missouri, maybe teams that didn't have a great rush defense. Florida's fourth in the league at rush defense. How tough do you think it will be for Rico to try to get loose this week?
Well, we need to stay balanced. I mean, we can't get into a one-dimensional game because they have very effective rushers as well. So you've got to be able to stay and be. This is a type game you're going to need to be a little hard-headed in the run game. You got to be able to run the ball some because you don't want to get into a situation where they're targeting on a launch point on the quarterback. So you've got to be able to stay with that, and we'll have a good plan for that.
Coach, I'm sure you're going to say there's still plenty of room for improvement, but you said at the beginning of the year you wanted this defense to be more physical. At this point of the season, is that identity slowly starting to mold? I mean, what are you seeing with this defense with that identity standpoint?
Well, I think we've tackled much. We're much improved as far as tackling is concerned. I think we've improved with our space play. We still have miles to travel, but we certainly have improved with some of our space play. Still, we got some area to go as far as taking on a block, disengaging, creating separation, disengaging, and making tackles. And that's something that we've got to continue to work on and really not just on the defensive line, but on the front seven itself. Our linebackers need to improve it. Our defensive line. Have we improved? Yes, we've improved, but we're still not to be confused with good. And so that's where we are. But our guys have worked, and they've seen the improvement, and they've seen as a player the improvement. And that's one of the things our defensive staff and offensive staff does a really nice job of pulling tape out from week 1, 2, and 3 and showing them where they are now. And as far as hand placement and pad level and strike and playing behind their pads and those sort of things. And because players need to see improvement to continue to be encouraged to put the work in. And our staff's done a really good job of that.
It's kind of along those same lines with the freshman defensive linemen, Thomas and Kobe Smith, some of those guys. How have they progressed over
Kobe
this last...
played the more snaps than he's played all season Saturday. We got caught in a situation with Missouri. You can't sub if they don't sub, and they didn't sub at all. So you get in a situation where you start 1st and 10, it don't matter. Those guys are playing the series. You can't get a guy in the game. So when you start a sub, they go fast, and they catch you in a substitution, even if it's on your sideline. I mean, your hash mark. So Kobe, I thought, played his best game against Missouri. Kiera Thomas continues to come on. Kiera's about 265, 268 playing 3 technique, which is hard sometimes in our league. But he continues to come on and do a nice job. And Dennis Warnham, I think, has continued to improve throughout the year. Dennis has also been a huge contributor on special teams, so that's been a pleasant, shock too.
John?
Are you pleased with how Chris Lamons has responded in practice? Have you had any extra talks with him this week since any kind of hesitancy going into the game?
No, there's no hesitancy at all. I mean, he lost his composure against Tennessee, and we had an unfortunate situation against Missouri. So, no, Chris Chris feels bad about it. I told him it's an unfortunate situation. The call was correct, but you got to just keep playing the game. That's part of it. And so, no, he's been great at practice. Very competitive today. Really, really proud of just watching him practice. I haven't watched the film yet, but watching him move around out there, I thought he did a nice job.
With a win over,
Very good.
well, with the win over Florida, you're still very much in contention for
Right.
the SEC East title. Is that something that you talk to your players about? And on top of that, I mean, what does that say about your players' attitudes right now? I mean, winning 3 in a row, going for their 4th now.
No, the only thing I address with our players is all we can control is South Carolina and our preparation for this game. And the only way any of that stuff stays away is we need to win the game. So all the other stuff doesn't matter. And all that's going to do is clutter your mind. So none of it matters other than having a great Tuesday practice, which leads us into a wonderful Wednesday practice, and then the Thursday and Friday to hopefully play well on Saturday against a very good football team. And that's really our focus needs to be. I said, is there any questions about all the hypotheticals? No, there's no questions. All right, great. So what do we need to do? And they all said, we need to beat Florida. I mean, so it's just about there's no discussion about anything else other than our preparation and what we need to do to be successful.
Will, how do you have authentic relationships with players you recruited at Florida and now have to disengage and compete against them? How do you manage that balance?
No different than you coach against people that you've worked with multiple years and that your families are close with. And on game day, there's nobody's going to be more competitive than me or them on their sideline to win the game. And representing their university and my university here at South Carolina and doing a great job for the players you're coaching now. I mean, so to me, it's no different than that. And, again, your competitive edge takes over. So regardless of who's sitting across that sideline, we're looking forward to playing. And I'm sure they are as well.
With Casey Crosby, how unique is it that he's strong enough to block on the line, but yet athletic enough to make a tiptoe play in the end zone?
Well, I think that's something that's, a luxury that we're going to have moving forward. KC being a guy, Hayden, Jacob August, Keel Pollard, a lot of those guys that are able to flex out and play in the slot and do some of those things, but also block at the core of the formation. That's an issue for for defensive coordinators because they're looking at it and it's very difficult to say, how are we going to count this guy? Is this guy a tight end or is he a receiver? Is he going to create a 3-man blocking service, or am I going to have to walk a linebacker in space and play with this guy? Are we going to be a physical enough team to stop the run with nickel in the game? And that's what those guys can create for you, which is very good for an offensive coordinator.
What did you guys see to kind of throw in the Wildcat package last week, and what how did you kind of see it going?
Well, we didn't obviously convert one of the third down situations that felt like we had a shot at. We did on another situation, but I think we got to have some variety, short yardage wise. What we're doing, keep the defense off balance, and try and have some change ups there every week off of our base run package.
Anything else for Coach?
All right. Thank you.